right, Pasadenans. Wait, hold on. Let me turn the music down. All right, Pasadenans and heroes everywhere. It is I, your friendly neighborhood Rabbi John Carrier, here with PJTC's RabbiChat. And you can ask me anything today, but first, maybe halfway through, I have a very important announcement to make about this week's Friday night Shabbat services. You know, we have services every Friday night, in a manner of speaking. They've been live streamed with me and Cantor Ruth Berman Harris. And some select members of our davening team are also there at a safe distance to uplift our prayers with their sounds. We have a special guest coming this Friday that I can't wait to tell you about. I will tell you about that soon. But first, this brief musical interlude. Thanks for being here. Nice to see you all. Hidely doodly neighborinos, channeling my inner Ned Flanders here. Let's see, I think that's somebody texting me saying, sound! Yes, nice to see you here, Vid. I hope you can hear me now. That's live studio in a solo space. Folks, just going to turn on the multi-chat to see what's up. Can't hear you, Rabbi, only the music. Can you hear me now? If you can hear me now, say Shavua Tov or type in something in the chat like I can hear you. So really delighted to be with you all here. Natalie Sorota's in the house, says shalom everyone. Hey Natalie, I got a message from Mr. Natalie from Daryl, and he said, asked if your emails were getting through. Now I hope they are. I plan to hear a response soon. It's been a week, I'll tell you. Hey, Carla, I hope you're doing okay. It was kind of a tough time last time we talked. I'm really glad to see you here. So we see Carla J in the house. Natalie Serrata's here on YouTube Live. How's the picture on YouTube Live? I started this on Twitch because Twitch, for me, had the most seamless experience. However, I think with a lot of people going to Twitch, maybe it's not as smooth as it used to be. So I'm seeing more and more people join in from Facebook Live and from YouTube Live. Wherever you're coming from, I am delighted to see you. So welcome to RabbiChat with me, your friendly neighborhood Rabbi John Carrier, and I'm delighted to answer whatever questions you have. I do have something to share with you, and I'm going to lift the curtain slowly on that one. Something that I've been really excited about. It all kind of came together very quickly, working with some partners here in the Pasadena community, and it's going to be dope. I'm looking forward to it. You can't imagine, or maybe you can, as soon as I tell you what is happening. But nice to see you here, Ruthie and CE, wherever you. I don't know if I've seen you here before. CE, welcome. Karen Wilcox, nice to see you here from Facebook land, says Shavua Tov. All right. I love it when people follow directions. Shavua Tov, Karen. Nice to have you here as well. How's everybody doing? It's been a tough 2020. I was out and about a little bit earlier today listening to the radio, and it was live coverage of George Floyd's funeral in Houston, Texas. Houston is a place with some carrier yichus to it. My dad grew up in Houston, inner city, single mom family. He said he didn't have shoes until he was old enough to go to school, and it was a hard place to grow up in the 40s and 50s, I guess. I get a lot of my values from both my parents, who were kind of outliers in their family. They were both the first people in their families to go to college, well before they met each other. And so both of them had experiences growing up in, let's say, circumstances of modest means in rural Texas. And so I get a lot of my values from them. Also, occasionally my accent. I don't know if my Texas accent ever comes through, but maybe someday we'll have a live stream where I get a phone call from my parents. And then you'll hear me go full redneck when I'm talking to my parents. So nice to see you here. Trig is in the house, coming in from Facebook. So whatever questions you all have, I'm here to answer them. I didn't really prepare a learning for today. It's been a week. Not making excuses. Preparing a lot of other stuff. We needed to, at the temple, we needed to revamp our yard site letter, because when we would send out a letter to people observing a yard site, it would say things like, come to services to remember your loved one. And it's like, we don't do that services anymore. I'm sorry to, lift the curtain. It might be a little bit of inside baseball. But this is challenging us to question all of our assumptions. It really is. That's part of how I see this time, whether we're talking about staying safer at home due to a pandemic that is still raging worldwide, whether it is this, let's say, overdue awakening to the difficulties of African Americans in America, not just in terms of police brutality, but that's on the forefront. Also, long-lasting economic disparity, healthcare disparity that this pandemic has brought into sharp focus, but has been a chronic issue. Equal justice under the law in general, and so it's questioning the deep-seated assumptions of health, economics, governance, public safety. All of that's on the table right now, and it's about time. I'm sorry we had to have the crises that we're having to get it there, but I'm glad. And if you know me, you know I'm all about questioning assumptions. I have staked my life, not just my livelihood, but my life, to a 4,000-year-old-ish tradition. I have laid it all on the table. All my chips are on the Jewish people. And so when I say questioning assumptions, I'm talking about questioning assumptions that go back a ways, and being open to the idea that, yes, there's some 4,000-year-old wisdom that can teach me in this moment, and that maybe I can help some other people by teaching them. I don't know if you can hear the dog's got her squeaky chicken in the crate. So that I can't be too serious, because every once in a while you'll hear a squeaky rubber chicken. But this is a time of questioning assumptions, and seeing, okay, what serves us, what doesn't serve us, what assets do we have from the tradition that can meet timeless needs in new ways, under new circumstances, with new constraints. And I don't want to share too much because it's still in the works. Where Cantor Ruth and I have been actively discussing ways that we can continue to uplift, innovate our services that we are still serving people with every week, a couple times a week. So that's in the works. You're going to see more on that soon. July is going to be an interesting time. And maybe I'll ask you guys some questions about this. I could really use your feedback on this as well. So we're talking about innovating services. We're talking about how do we focus on the needs of our brothers and sisters in the African American community, including those who are in our own congregation. So many things are on the table right now. So many people have questions about how should I move forward? How should I not move forward? I am a part of the Rabbis Without Borders network. It's been a great machaya in my life to be with a bunch of rabbis who, as someone once shared with me, not only do we think about outside the box, but we, just don't even notice the box sometimes, for better or worse. Don't even acknowledge the presence of the box. I think that's what they taught us, is you need to look at the box. You need to understand how important the box is in some people's lives before you totally trash it and think about something new. So with a bunch of holy colleagues this morning talking about how can we best lead, serve, teach in this time, how can we acknowledge the white privilege that many of us have and grew up with and took for granted. How do we notice that? How do we quell that? How do we use that to help give voice to people who don't have a voice? And so again, this group is all about questioning assumptions. That was part of my morning, and I'm really grateful to Rabbis Without Borders for the education that I've gotten through them, for the partnerships that we've made. It's been a great inspiration for me in all the digital media stuff that I've done. So that's a big piece of it as well, is what kind of partnerships do we already have? What kind of partnerships can we work going forward? That's going to be part of my announcement here in a second, but I just want to go into the chat and see what's going on. Let's see, we got Trig Bell in the house. KG Wilcox, Karen JG Wilcox is in the house, says we're okay. Looting nearby, if I'm not mistaken, you're in the Pennsylvania area. Looting nearby, but curfew has been lifted and the National Guard has left. There's a lot of work, physical and philosophical, for everyone to do. Amen. I'll say in Hebrew there. Oh boy, Karen Trigbell says, Washington State, the county I'm in, is still in phase 1. I have become worrisome that I'll never get to go back to work. And you do work with people in a very hands-on way, and so I understand that that's people's livelihoods are at stake. I never want to take for granted that I get to do holy work right now, and sometimes I might gripe a little bit just because I've never worked harder in my life, but it's important, and I take that for granted that I get to do that. Whereas people have their livelihoods and where they get their meaning on hold, and I think that's a lot of the tension that we're seeing these days. Not the focus of the attention, but I think that's in the gravy, as it were. Natalie says, me too, Rabbi. My kids always know when I'm on the phone with my mom. My accent goes south very fast. I'll share something. I was, and I promise I'm going to make this announcement because I'm excited. I'm just trying to build the tension a little bit. So this week, for the very first time, I was asked to officiate a memorial service totally online. And I was nervous, frankly. I mean, I was like, okay, how's this going to go? Funerals always, I won't say they make me nervous. It's always an honor to be there, but I'm always a little bit tense because I want to make sure the family feels taken care of. And I used to be, when I officiated a funeral, I would come home and I would just, like, all my muscles would be tense because I was so nervous that the family felt like well taken care of. Now it's been a few, so I don't get as nervous as I used to. But this one, I was a little bit nervous because it was all on Zoom. It wasn't in a physical location like I'm accustomed to. Even the physical locations have changed. With funerals, let's say the closest funeral home to where we are in Pasadena, they have changed so many things. They're no longer inside memorial service. It's entirely outside by the graveside. You can't have more than 10 people plus clergy present. Everybody's spaced out physically, and those have changed. But I did my first memorial service on Zoom, and this woman shared a story that just had everybody, it was a wonderful life, well lived. One of her good friends was telling a hilarious story, and the person who passed was Brooklyn born and bred, and like New York all the way through. And then one of her very close friends was, I didn't quite gather where they were from in the South, but South it was. And she was telling this fascinating story, and I just had this moment where, you don't get to hear a lot of Bubba and Mama stories, if I could say that. It was clearly like two grandmothers from very different traditions who were close friends, but it was like just made me think of my mama all the way through. So let's see who else is in the house. We've got, let's see, that's just riffing on Natalie talking about our southern accents. So I said, if I can get a Bubba and a Mama in the same room, I feel like I'm completely at home. Vit, your Malowitz is here. Hey everyone, nice to see you. Natalie, Ruthie, Carla, Jay, hi CE. Let's see, Ruthie's in the house. So happy to see you, Vit. And Mark Hoffman. Mark, nice to see you. How do you balance between new music and traditional music during a service? How do you and Cantor decide when to slow down or to speed up a service? So that's a great question, Mark. It's a little bit of. 1 second, hold on. What's that? I'm on live and you're heckling me. Okay, I'm sorry. I heard something. I thought I heard something in the other room. So really nice to see everybody. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. I thought somebody was I thought one of my family was heckling me, which is okay. I need it from time to time, but that's not the case. In any case, new music, old music. How do we balance it? I'm going to ascribe it to, I guess the nearest thing I could say is kind of like musicianship. Part of leading prayers is figuring out, who we're serving. Cantor Ruth and I both serve as Shlichei Tzibor, which is Hebrew for we're sort of agents of the community. It's not what I love about working at PJTC is Cantor Ruth and I have the exact same philosophy when it comes to what we do, and that is we're not there for a performance or for show personship. We're there to help the people who are there have a spiritual experience, have room to meditate, have access to learning, access to our perspective on things when it comes to sermons and things like that. But we're really there not to pray for you in the sense of praying instead of you, but to pray with you and help uplift your prayers. And so that's sort of a little bit challenged right now because we're praying in a space where there's no people there. But it really, when you talk about slowing down and speeding up, so much of it is the energy of how the service is unfolding, the energy of the people who are present, the energy of the moment. Some weeks you really feel like jazzing it up and davening with great joy, and some weeks that feels entirely inappropriate. And I'll say this past Friday was a pretty heavy service in my feelings, and I've gotten some great feedback here on that as well. So glad that people are getting something out of it. So sometimes it's just the mood that we slow down. As far as old versus new or traditional versus innovative, that's also a balance, because I think services have sort of a as Rabbi Lawrence Hoffman says, services should have kind of the 3 Ps, right? They have an aspect of priestliness, they have an aspect of propheticness, and an aspect of pastoralness. I put the Nessies on there myself. Look out for that monster. But services should be priestly, prophetic, you're prophetic, and pastoral. And so part of it is you come for the ritual, and part of ritual is, let's say, repetition. It's like it gives us a framework. It gives us a sense of where we are and what we're doing and who we're doing it with. And there's also prophetic, there's also teaching, there's changing perspective. There is afflicting the comfortable and comforting the afflicted. Just teaching Torah, it works into there. And then there's a pastoral aspect to it. That's people's comfort with what is going on. Or people are coming from a hard week and they need comfort, right? They need to chill out. They need to be around people that they trust. And that could be me, that could be the cantor, that could be their friends in the space, however we define space these days. And on the one hand, I really believe that traditional melodies have a kind of priestly aspect, meaning when you come to a service, you expect it to have a certain format and certain things in the liturgy. And if you don't get those things, you feel kind of taken out of the moment. You feel like, oh, it's not Shabbos unless I hear Shalom Aleichem sung a certain way, and that's one of my mentors said that. First time I led Friday night services at this place where I was an intern, he said, "Hey, really like the new melodies. You ruined Shabbat for people, right?" For some people, because they were expecting to hear a certain thing and they didn't hear it. So you always have to hold that tension. At the same time, people do thrive on the prophetic aspect of hearing old prayers in a new tune. It says over and over again in the Psalms of Shabbat, Shiru Lashem Shir Chadash. You should sing unto God a new song. And even if it's the same words that you sang last week, throw a new tune in there, right? Acknowledge that this work of partnership in the co-creation of the world is ongoing and deserves to be kept fresh every once in a while. And so at all times, we're sort of balancing that. And also, I'll just, this is more inside baseball. We get bored sometimes. Not that our job is boring, but it's like we hear these tunes and it's like, if I think like, oh, I'm kind of bored with this tune and I love this tune. So if I'm bored with it, then everybody else out there might be bored with it too. So maybe it deserves to be freshened up a little bit. So it's a tension. If we completely throw everything out and innovate, for some folks, that's just not Shabbos, and we are not serving them the way we need to be serving them, and we're not serving ourselves the way we need to be served. So, but also recognize, so we need to have a balance of the traditional. Some people feel that certain songs are Misinai, which is Hebrew for from Mount Sinai, meaning this particular tune of a particular prayer has always been sung by the Jewish people this way, going all the way back, 3,800 years to Mount Sinai. And when in actuality it was composed in the mid-19th century in Germany, riffing on a polka sung in beer halls. So that happens in musical history. Not telling anything new here. And so balancing that people's need for comfort with people's desire for having things be fresh and relatable and of the moment. So really huge question. So thank you for that. I hope I gave you a little bit of an answer to it in that long story. Trig says, Rabbi, I love the services this weekend. Thank you. We loved them too. I really appreciate that. Let's see. We're hoping to open KG Wilcox. Karen says, we're hoping to open up fully on 6/22. Hope you're able to open up soon too. So I'll say this, that's probably sooner than we're planning to. It just so happens we are graced, and this isn't entirely why. I mean, we're in the metropolitan area of the largest city in the country, I think, by population, the Los Angeles area, the Los Angeles metropolitan area. High population density in some parts of it. We also, because we are a very, let's say, academic community, we are close to Caltech and close to NASA and Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and we have Occidental College professors in our membership. So and not a few epidemiologists. We actually, I think, have an epidemiologist sharing some Torah and wisdom with us this week in the community. Remind me to give that announcement I was talking about, because that's still going to be cool. We have a number of people who are really focused on the science of this, and while I don't foresee that we're certainly not going to be opening up to regular folks coming in for services as soon as June 22nd. We're following state guidelines, county guidelines, city guidelines, the advice of scientists, and the comfort of our members. And what we have done is established a committee in the synagogue. This is based on advice from United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism, best practices for synagogues around the country, saying you should have a committee. You should have people who intentionally listen to members of the community, listen to the scientific data, listen to what the civil authorities are doing, and determine that way when you are opening up again. So I'll just say it's not my call 100%, nor should it be, but we do have a committee of some very smart people who are deeply connected to Pasadena for a lot longer than I've been, who are making this decision. So stay tuned for that. I think right now we're assuming, let's make our live streaming services the best we possibly can for as long as we have to do them this way. And I can only imagine that once we do open up again, there will still be members who, for one reason or another, are not comfortable being on campus, whether it's their own health conditions, whether it's their own assessments of the situation. Live streaming is here to stay. That's one rabbi's opinion. So, as Natalie said, good job building the tension. Thanks for that. Okay, we're getting close to the half-hour mark, so I'm going to have to tell you something eventually. Andrea Feiger Kelly says, thank you for sharing your experience about your first Zoom memorial service. It was something, but I have to tell you, it was a holy occasion in ways that I didn't expect. I was, I don't know if anybody else here has been in too many Zoom meetings lately, to the point where your eyes are turning square and your voice is going hoarse because you feel like you have to shout. So I was thinking, oh, it's going to be on Zoom. Yay, Zoom. But it was amazing. And I don't want to share the name of the company just because this is our official PJTC thing, and we're not in the commercials business. If you have a need for something like that, boy, have I got. Do I know a service for you? Reach out to me privately. But it was an amazing service, and it was also that people could be there from all different aspects of the life of the deceased, and all different aspects and places and time frames in the life of the living. You know, we're a much more mobile society than we used to be. It made me realize that, you know, when a lot of the traditions around Jewish memorial services coalesced, you know, you probably died in the same town that you were born in, right? You knew the same, all the same families knew each other their whole lives. And now, with an increasingly mobile society over the last, say, century, you know, you were born in one town and you go to college in another and you get a job in a third town and maybe three or four towns. And then by the time you pass away, you may be retired in Florida or California or the desert in Arizona or something. So your life and the friendships that you form and the cohorts that you form and the paths that you walk has a much greater geographic spread than was even imaginable when most of the customs of Jewish funerals sort of formalized. And so in some ways it was able to capture that geographic spread better than, I hate to say this, better than how we usually do funerals. It used to involve a lot of plane tickets, frankly, that we don't have to have anymore. So it was really something. I'll just say it that way. And I wasn't expecting it to be as holy as an occasion as it was. I mean, I knew it was going to be great. Great lady, great family, lots of people talking about her. But the technology piece was just seamless in ways that I was pleasantly surprised. I'll put it that way. So Andrea Feiger-Kelly says that. Jay Kitterman, nice to see you. How do you balance between new and traditional music during services? We talked about that. About grandmothers, KG Wilcox shares something. I don't know if it has the bubbas and the mamas in there. That's what I called one of my grandmothers were named Mama and Mimi, as far as I know. I don't know if that's on their birth certificate. KG Wilcox says, I love your band. Thank you. You have some amazing people. Matt Cheadle, Steve Moose, Betsy Kahn, our davening team, you know, with a guitar and a mandolin and harmonizing voices. It's a joy to work with those folks. Vityer Malowitz says, even a picture of Buddha statue I work on is waiting for an announcement. Okay. Even Buddha, even bronze Buddha is impatient. So I'm going to read one more chat, and then I'll share my news with you. KG Wilcox says, Philly has lots of experts too, but they're not in office. And our synagogue, as opposed to our business, isn't planning to open anytime soon. Okay, we've already announced online services for high holidays. I know a local synagogue that didn't open, but only for ages 13 to 60 with distancing. So all of this stuff is in flux. All assumptions are being questioned. I hate that we keep using the phrase "the new normal," and who knows when that's going to be the old new normal, and then we'll have a new normal. What I do know. And this I take as a matter of faith, but also from my scant 44 years of being alive, if there's one thing I have learned, and I've probably learned more than one thing, but here's the most important thing, is that relationships matter. And you should nurture the relationships that you have, because whatever practical stuff you have to do will fail or succeed on the relationships that you have with the people that you do those things with, right? None of us succeeds alone. There's I've only seen it quoted, on Pinterest as an African proverb. I wish we had something more specific than this. But I have learned the hard way many times. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so what this moment in history, as present and up to date as it is teaching me that, as I've said to people at PJTC, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but I know that when we do, it's going to be because we went through it together. And so one very important partnership among many that I have been working on this week is reaching out in ways that I have failed to do, frankly, personally so far, with the leadership and membership of the African American community in Pasadena. And so I've initiated a number of conversations that were a long time in coming, and I've been getting responses from people that I'm really grateful for. The first thing that's really bearing fruit and that I'm really excited to share with you right now, and you're hearing it first here on RabbiChat. Hope I don't make anybody mad because I'm doing this. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here. Is that this week at our Friday night services, we're going to have Kabbalat Shabbat. Don't worry about that. It's L'chuna Ranana is still going to be there for you. We're going to have Kabbalat Shabbat services. There is this amazing award that is given at Pasadena every year called the Fuchs Award, given to young people who are doing great work in the world. We're having the Fuchs Award. Then we're having Mariv. We're having our regular evening prayer services with Baruch Hu and blessings of light and love and the Shema and Hashkivenu and all that good stuff. And then we are having a guest speaker taking my sermon spot. Love when I get the day off. And it's going to be the head of the Pasadena chapter of the NAACP, the National, I think, what is it, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, I think is what that acronym stands for. So the Pasadena chair of the NAACP is going to be speaking at Pasadena this Friday night, and that's going to be live streamed to everybody who's watching it. And it is my great honor that he said yes. And he's had a long-standing relationship with people in our temple. I'm the new guy, so I have to introduce myself to folks. But he is not a stranger. His name is Alan Edson. He is not a stranger to the PJTC community. Had a long, great working relationship with Rabbi Marvin Gross, Alav Shalom, who was the founding president of Pasadena's Social Justice Committee that has continued in his work. And what Mr. Edson said to me was, I know that Marv has passed. I hope that doesn't mean the end for the relationship between PJTC and the NAACP. And so I'm really excited that he's going to be our guest darshan, teaching whatever Torah he has to teach. The mic is his at PJTC this week. So I'm really excited to share that with you. We're going to let people know this is happening. There will be announcements of that coming out hopefully tomorrow. It'll be in our regular bulletin with all the links to join us through StreamSpot, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and I'm just really honored that he's going to be sharing his wisdom and his message with us this Friday night. I'll probably be speaking next Friday night, but it's really important to me that we make room for all the voices in our community, especially those that need to have their voice heard at this time. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. This is not, a personal victory of mine. It was a phone call, and it's only because our Social Justice Committee has been working so hard for so long and so well with our partners throughout the Pasadena community that we were able to do this. Callie's excited. You can hear her whining in her crate. I wanted to get out. As Trig Bell says, I wish this new normal had come in a different way. Fantastic. That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Really glad it's pleasing to people. Buddha is delighted. Great news. I can't speak for Buddha. But I tell you, every time I feel like giving a long sermon, speaking of Buddha, I'll be right there, sweetheart. Every time I think I'm going to give this long, stirring sermon, I remember the story of the Buddha who once, in a big crowd of people, held up a single lotus flower, and it said 10,000 people were enlightened that day. I'm like, sometimes I challenge myself, like, do the lotus, or the verbal equivalent thereof. So really glad that everybody's here. I've got to go. That dog is about to chew her way through my ankle. But it's been good. We're meeting with a new trainer tomorrow. We're going to see how that goes. So Trick says, Viv just barked at Callie. Thank you. So listen, everybody, I really appreciate some great questions about Jewish prayer and decisions about innovation, how we make those decisions. I really appreciate people sharing how they're doing, where they are. This is really a nationwide community we've gotten here. It's hard as in Pasadena, but it's great that we connect with so many people. I really appreciate learning with all of you today. We will be together again live next Thursday, and for right now, I got a dog to walk. Until next time, Pasadenans and my heroes everywhere, peace.